All right, call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first council meeting of 2020. Remember to say that. Start off with approval of the agenda, that the January 13th, 2020 regular meeting agenda be adopted as presented. Move second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of the minutes, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held December the 9th, 2019 be adopted as presented. Moved. Second. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Right away into delegations. I'd like to welcome tonight our representative from Enbridge, Mr. Mark Amundrud. No?
Yeah.
I had it the first time.
Really good. Amundrud.
Amundrud. Thank you.
Don't want to get it though.
You had to come down from Kamloops?
Yeah, that's right. I'm at the Kamloops office.
Well, I appreciate you coming down. This is poor weather.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time to be able to come in front of you folks. I want to start by thanking actually Donna for the call this morning and mentioning the roads and that. So safety at Enbridge is of course really big, and she called me and said, you know, the roads aren't very good. It's, you know, we can reschedule if we need to. But so certainly appreciate that, because that's certainly our philosophy, that we'd rather people don't drive if they don't have to. Things were pretty good coming in, so it wasn't a big deal.
That's good to hear. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Really out there. Go down pretty good.
Yeah, everywhere. I would say the worst part was actually the 20 kilometers coming into Hope.
Yeah, it usually is.
I wouldn't say, like, if you didn't have winter tires, it probably wouldn't be a good idea. The rest of it was lots of ice and snow, compact snow. Seemed pretty good. Traffic was moving.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've come here to represent Enbridge. We're doing operational updates to the communities that we operate within. Hope being a major one with the Thelon compressor station right here in town. So just a little bit on Enbridge. So we're based in Canada, but we are the largest oil and gas infrastructure company in North America. So a lot of that based on the merger between Spectra Energy and Enbridge. So Spectra Energy, West Coast Energy was the original pipeline to come through British Columbia here. So a bit more of a map there for those that haven't seen it before. So the thick blue line there is our main transmission system. So it goes from Fort St. John and Fort Nelson for the most part, and then transits the province of British Columbia until it gets to the Sumas border crossing. So essentially that's where the natural gas that heats the homes in British Columbia originates from. So folks like Fortis will take off that system and bring it out to residential distribution, our homes and hospitals, but we're basically the big pipeline that brings it in from the producing areas through all the communities. So we handle about 60% of all the natural gas in British Columbia, and the vast majority of gas burned or used in homes and burned in industrial factories in British Columbia comes out of this pipeline system. So it was built in 1956 originally, so it's been around for about 60 years. So we always put this in too, because we do have a fairly robust community investment program. We touch a lot of communities, but certainly communities like Hope, we ask that you consider us when you're making applications for community investment initiatives. Fort St. John has historically taken a lion's share of our community investment. We had, until very recently, about 700 or 800 employees there, so that really drove that. Whereas we have quite a bit fewer employees down in southern BC, so it just doesn't seem to get the same attention. But there is a focus now on trying to invest more in this part of the province. So certainly, if there's people in community organizations that you know of that maybe we can partner with, we're certainly interested in that. The economic impacts. So these numbers are now 2018, so pretty old, but still fairly relevant. So we paid $75 million in property taxes in 2018 to British Columbia. You know, a large majority of that going to municipalities and regional districts. About $90 million in other taxes to the province of BC. $870 million on capital expenditures, so that's money that new capital that we put into the pipeline system last year. And then another $650 on operations, so that's just our standard operations in the province. So 700 employees based in British Columbia. That has actually recently changed. We just completed the sale of our gas and processing assets in Fort St. John. So that number is actually going to be quite a bit lower going forward. So Brookfield Infrastructure bought all those assets, so those people continue to work in BC, just not for us anymore. We've really moved to be a straight pipeline, transmission pipeline company. So those assets, which are more in gas processing and a lot more open market fluctuations, didn't fit into the current business model. Doesn't affect this area, but it does affect that number. So, you know, a lot of folks know this, but always a good reminder. So That would be a typical right-of-way, particularly somewhere like going through the Coquihalla there, where we come into your area. So usually clear vegetation, grass growing on it, things like that. We put up our signs, which you'll see them all over your community. Anywhere we have a crossing, like a major, well, any road really, but you see them on the major highway here and Highway 1 and places like that. Essentially, both of those are to ensure the public knows that there's a high-pressure gas line underneath the surface there. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to see. 99% of the pipeline is below ground, so it's only the aerial crossings like the one coming in on the Coquihalla here that you would see the pipeline go above ground. Yeah, we're transmitting basically what we call an industry sweet gas, so it's furnace gas. So it's already been cleaned. It's generally pure methane that you would burn in your furnace. So it's non-toxic, no odor to it. The odor that you actually would associate with natural gas is added after it comes out of the pipeline system. So somebody like Fortis will add it in their Captain so that you know if you have a gas leak in your home or something like that, it's a safety factor. But that's not the actual smell of the gas. So a big push this year has been our integrity program. I think a common question we get asked is, with pipelines that are approaching 60 years old, how do you maintain them? So the integrity program is our primary way of maintaining the pipelines. Essentially this year we inspected a complete inspection of the entire pipeline system from Fort Nelson to Sumas, using 4 different types of tools on every single section. What those tools do is they go within the pipeline and actually scan it for different defects, anomalies we call them. So often it'll be dents or cracks or corrosion, things like that, that are starting to form. Once we get that actual data, then our field crews go out, mechanically expose the pipeline in the area where we picked up this anomaly, and then we'll take the coating off, do visual inspections as well as x-rays to understand what is actually going on there. So depending on what we find, often we actually find that there isn't anything there. However, other times when we do find things, we usually do field repairs. So repairs can be anything from just buffing off the rust that's starting to form and putting it back to bed, to using what we call something like a clock spring, which I always think of just like a big thing, not duct tape, it's almost like duct tape made of steel to hold pressure-containing sleeve to hold the pipe together there. Or in extreme cases, we'll just cut pieces of the pipeline right out and replace it with brand new pipe, if that's the type of repair that's required. So in British Columbia this year, we did our biggest integrity program, I believe, in the history of West Coast, particularly by numbers of the amount of capital that was spent on it. So we had about 150 integrity dates here in BC. The 1,000 number there is the North America-wide number. But we also expect next year this year now, 2020, to be another big year for our integrity maintenance program. So we expect another 100 to 150 dates throughout the pipeline system. So we'll certainly be in contact with city and staff if some of those dates are occurring within the municipality here. So another big program, a couple big programs we've had going on probably for the last 5 to 10 years, pipeline segment replacements. So that's kind of the picture on the top there. So 2 reasons you could do a pipeline segment replacement. The most common one is population increases near the pipeline. So CSA code requires a certain amount of basically pipe thickness, class code, depending on the population in the area. So the higher the population in the area, the higher class code pipe would need to be. Basically, it's thicker steel, stronger. Generally, the #1 reason for a pipeline incident is a third-party strike. So a third party taking into the right of way without realizing there's a high-pressure gas line in there, causing an incident. That's one of the reasons why we use thicker pipe in populated areas. You can imagine when we go through Chilliwack, the chances of the pipeline being struck get much higher because of the huge population, lots of other infrastructure, highway crews, and things like that. So the safety factor to make sure that they can withstand the strikes goes up the higher the population. So there'll be another slide in here later. We do have a very small class code upgrade here in Hope. We're hoping to do in 2021. So it's about a 300-meter section near the Kettle Valley Road. That's the right road there, Kettle Valley, where we cross there. So just kind of upstream of that towards the station is where we look to do the replacement. So it's no changes in pressure pipe at all. It's just a straight out replacement of older pipe with brand new thicker pipe. I got another slide on it here if we go into a bit more detail on that. The other big thing that we've done in recent years, not so much around here recently, is crossovers. So we've been building new crossovers. Crossovers, essentially, the majority of the system is 2 pipelines. There's a 30-inch and a 36-inch pipeline. The crossovers are kind of what that's depicting there. That's what it looks like when it's all excavated out. but it's essentially tying two pipelines together so that we can move gas in between either pipeline. Also acts as a shut-off valve, so we can shut the pipeline off at that location. The reason for wanting to tie the two pipelines together is essentially a maintenance reason. So if you can imagine, we can't obviously cut into the pipeline for maintenance when there's natural gas in the pipeline. So anytime that there is maintenance required, we have to take the pipeline out of service. We'll have to take giant, like very large sections of the pipeline out, and it involves finding a place where one of these exists currently, and we can pump the gas from one of these into the other pipeline to conserve greenhouse gases, essentially. When you get to the last 100 pounds of pressure, that's when we'll do the venting. You can't actually, well, I guess with enough effort you could, but there's the ability to push the gas into the other pipeline when you get to about 100 pounds. So that's when we release the last of the pressure that goes into the atmosphere. So these allow us to isolate smaller and smaller segments of pipeline for maintenance, reduce greenhouse gas emissions when we do the venting, but also allow us to essentially have more capacity on the pipeline during outages. So there's been quite a few of those over the last few years. I don't know if it's the most recent one, but you can see one on Coquihalla on the way to Kamloops there, Juliet Creek. So that's a good example of a fairly new one that we put in there. And then compressor station upgrades. So a lot of them in this area have been done, but particularly north of Savannah, north of Kamloops, we're replacing a lot of compressor station engines. Again, these will add more capacity to the pipeline, but they are essentially maintenance activities. So we're replacing compressor station engines from the 1980s with brand new engines. So they will be stronger, but they're also more efficient, burn less greenhouse gases, and should just be more reliable. Of course, when we're getting to 30, 35-year-old engines, they just don't run like we used to. And so we've been in the process of swapping them all out. So this is just a schematic of why we do the mainline class upgrades, changing the pipe thickness. Basically, it has to do with CSA Z662, which is the pipeline regulations in Canada. And it's we do assessments of about a 400-meter corridor centered along the pipeline every 1.6 kilometers to understand what the population is in that area and if it's growing. Of course, British Columbia is growing, and people have a tendency to move into the same rural area or same urban areas, so we're seeing a lot of these hospitals in the last few recent years. So this is, of course, a picture not of Hope, but of a class code upgrade we did a couple of years ago near Prince George, or closer to Quesnel, actually, to the Deep Creek. So that's kind of essentially what it would look like if you were to do a mainline class upgrade. That one's about 900 meters, maybe a kilometer or so. The one here much smaller, 300 meters, but would look like a small version of this. So it takes about 3 months to complete. The one here might not take quite as long, I'm not sure. Just, again, it's a much smaller segment than we normally deal with. But it's probably a lot of things you have to do anyway. So 3 months is a good bet on how long it would take us. So that's, you can't see it very well, but that's the location right in here. So I believe that's that big hill there. You can kind of see it. And Kettle Valley Road in here, I believe. And so the 300-meter segment is just up in here. And I believe some of the land is owned by the city or district of Hope, as well as some private land. And then our other big one, Station 9, so just down the street there on the Chinook First Nation lands, we recently completed the upgrade of the engine at that station. So that station is now fully operational with the brand new unit. We completed the demolition of the old unit in December, and so now we should complete all the project work at that station, just downstream of Hope here. And this is what we're calling the reliability program, but it's where we're putting in the new compressor engines. So you can see we're putting one at Station 3. This is McLeod Lake, Summit Lake here, so just north of Prince George. There's City of Prince George. Here we've got, this is Hickson, BC. So this is Australian, so just south of Quesnel, Williams Lake, so this is 150-mile house. And then we're doing at Savannah near Kamloops, so we won't be doing a full engine swap, but we'll be putting in a new cooler unit, so something to cool gas as it comes through the compressor station. So more minor capital work, but still a big project. So all of these put together will be done. We're planning to start construction on all of these units in March of this year. Capital is about $1 billion of new capital to put these units in. Hope here in Othello is part of the program. What's happening at Hope is a software upgrade. So in the industry they call it the golden screwdriver, but essentially the unit's fairly new. It runs off of a software program. that you can upgrade, which we will be putting in the, or we put in the application to upgrade it, and part of this program will be to upgrade that software, so there's no actual mechanical, physical work that will happen at the station. But the change in software will give it more horsepower, so it's basically making it more efficient. And so that will be happening, but as far as the construction activities, you won't see any changes at the station there. So I think that's the presentation. Certainly welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Council, any questions for Mark?
What's the pipeline run at for PSI?
So maximum allowable operating pressure is 936 pounds. I think actually until I'll have to get back to you for sure.
No, I'm just curious what runs that for my own personal.
Well, there is a 20% reduction in pressure once, I believe it's once you reach Othello, because of the much higher populations in this area. So that's been in place since 1956. So the lower the pressure, the more safe the pipeline is intrinsically, but it is rated for around 936 and technically could in this area too.
Councilor Harrison.
Sure. Thank you for coming. I just have my own personal thinking. If you were to replace the pipeline going through Hope, would you go disrupt the whole highway, or you drill underneath the highway when you do that? Or
It's a good question.
Because that would be a real disruption.
Yeah, like we would have to give you a definitive answer, we'd probably have to do like some geotechnical work to actually understand what the substrate is like underneath the highway there. I would say as a general answer, yeah, we generally bore it. But it does depend on what the subsurface looks like. You can't bore everything. So sometimes what we've done in places where, like I mean, a big highway like that would be very difficult, I would say, to do anything but a bore. Smaller roads that we do sometimes open cut, we'll call open cut them. So we'll close one lane, open one half of the road up, do the work on that half of the road, close the lane, open the other half of the road up. So we work with either the municipality or Ministry of Transportation to ensure that traffic's still able to flow.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Smith.
Dig One program, I mean, that must have helped a lot, cut down the amount of people.
Yes.
Because there was a lot, years ago, there used to be a lot of people just digging in by chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I should have mentioned that. I mean, we're big supporters of the click before you dig.
Yeah.
We certainly are call before you dig, whatever you want to call it now. But yeah, we certainly screen every call that comes into us. And we take it quite seriously. And if anybody has property that has a pipeline on it, if they call us, we come out and do the locates and provide all the permitting for free. The work, of course, that you're doing is still paid for by the worker, but any of the advice from us as far as like where the pipeline is and how to cross it and feedback on the design is something we just do, and we're always welcome to come out and provide feedback, and it's all free charge. It's just for that we'd much rather pay the cost of having somebody go out than have somebody hit it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you again for your presentation, Mark. Enbridge continues to be an important part of our community, so we do appreciate the updates. So you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you very
Bring
much.
your colleagues with you.
You bet.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Safe trip.
Thank you.
Staff reports. First the staff tonight, Ms. Bell.
Big pickings here, right?
Big pickings. Maybe just a quick update, if you could, on the flood study grant application that we're going to be looking at.
Yes, so council may remember that you've received from McCask Consultants the Lower Coquihalla River Flood Assessment or Hazard Assessment and Gravel Deposition Report. And the report outlined the increase in creek channel bed elevation due to the deposition of sediment over the last 10 years. And the progressive bed level increase reduces the effectiveness of the dikes, as well as forming gravel beds that tend to deflect the flows to erodible riverbanks. This poses flooding and environmental issues. According to recent flood control studies, the existing Coquihalla River diking system is below the provincial standard of the 200-year flood. Therefore, the district requires a new flood control design that incorporates the existing dike structure and new dike structures. The study will also help us moving forward when updating bylaws and land use planning policies. The grant is 100% covered, and once done, it will also enable the district to qualify for future works grants as they come available.
Thank you, Ms. Bellingham. To remind council as well, this was this is the next step after we made our presentation in UBCM, and the funds were not available through that program. They suggested we go this route, so this is where we are now, ready to apply for this grant. So there's no questions of Ms. Bellingham, or if I could wait another time, I'd like to proceed with the proposed resolution. That the District of Hope Flood Mitigation Planning Funding Application Proposal is intended to secure the essential funding needed to strengthen and enhance flood mitigation works across the District of Hope and associated communities at risk from flood-related events. And further, that Council directs staff to prepare and submit the District of Hope Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, CEPF 2020, Flood Mitigation Planning Proposal and Grant Application. Moved. Second, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you to staff. There's no committee reports. We'll do mayor and council reports. I have nothing to report. We met so long ago, I don't think it's worthwhile to go back on my December appointments or meetings. And I'll yield to Councillor Smith.
Mine's pretty simple too. Just a big thank you to Hope Lions Club and John and Hope Tony and John and Sarah for the Santa Sleigh ride they did. I think it was December 14th they did it. It was awesome. They had 2 trucks out this year. Seeing how many people were out there was awesome. So, also the alumni game's coming up January 25th. So, I think there's a few more tickets left over at the Visitor Information Center. So, go get your tickets. Come watch.
Very few.
Yeah. Other than that, everything, Christmas was good. So,
welcome back.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Erickson.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone, and I hope we have a very good year here. I'm sure we will. So I was asked by Scott if I could be on the committee looking for a new economic development for Advantage Hope. So we had 5 resumes come in, and we've had 1 interview. We're supposed to have 3, but due to the weather, they were on the days that the weather was really bad. Today was supposed to be 1, and Friday was supposed to be another. But we are looking seriously. We have some good people that we're interviewing, it seems. And so that's what I've been doing. One other thing I'd like to bring up is, since we have passed a motion that we're going to have an economic development officer here at Hope, we really need to find a place for him to work out of. The Tourist Information Center we need to do something quickly for the Tourist Information Center to get another structure there or something. So I'm just wondering if council could agree on that. Maybe a couple of us from council could sit down and kind of do a study for council on where we could do it. Just so you know, I've done a little bit of homework myself. I've got my brother and I have mostly my brother, I just do some of the funding. We have an architect in our business, so he drew up. I said, could you just draw a quick draft? I told him what I think would look nice over on one spot in town. And so I got a temporary, just as quick drawing and a partial estimate, like what he thought it would cost to build that structure in town. It's 1,500 square feet that we drew up. I didn't bring it today because I thought it would be just a quick meeting, but I thought we'd present it to council and see that I think a couple of us from council should actually go ahead and work toward it so that then it can be presented to council. Otherwise, it's just too much waiting. I just would not like to see us have an economic development officer come here, not having a real place to have to share a desk, or two or three people have to share the same desk. When somebody coming to town and says, you know, I'd like to start a business up in Hope, and he comes into a little thing like that, I just don't think it's a good perspective and a good look for the town. So I'm just wondering if we could think about it, maybe even make a motion that a couple of us, maybe myself, and I'm volunteering myself, and maybe Councillor Victor Smith, that we could work together and just see what we could come up and bring to council, so we could get this going. And then if council can say, no, we don't want to do it, or we could do it. It's just an idea that I just can't see that we can wait another year or 2 or 3 for Advantage Hope to sit in the situation that they're in, and the Tourist Information Center. It's just not a good look for the town. I don't think. And since we voted for it, you know, I'm pushing to try and do what we can to make this a better place for the tourist information in Enbridge. I don't know what you think. It's just an idea that I thought.
No, I'm glad to hear that you're on side and that you're participating in the application and interview process. I appreciate your time for that. If you're interested, staff, Mr. Fordolowski's already started, and there's several pieces of the puzzle outstanding. Not several, I should say several. Several are completed. There's still a couple pieces on some of the directions that council has given staff previously, but if you're interested, the two of you should work with Mr. Fordolowski and myself as soon as he's able to, because there is a few updates available, but John will talk to you about that, and we can move forward as quickly as possible.
I think, I would personally, I'm just telling personally, I think if we got busy at it right away, I think we could have a facility for Advantage Hope and tourist information probably by June or July, if we could find a piece of land, or if we use the same land or something. I think we could do it quickly.
That's the major piece of the puzzle, of course, is the site.
But then that might take, I mean, I'm going to work my butt off, and I know Victor would be too, I'm sure. And I know John would, if we could just find something and bring it to council and say, this is what we found, and move as quickly as I don't know how the rest of you think, but.
No, it sounds like there's some renewed interest in this. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway, that's all I have to read.
Thanks for your presentation. Councilor Medlock.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to report either, but I fully agree with you. I know that the hiring process will take a little bit more time, and then usually they'll have to give some notice somewhere else, so they probably wouldn't be able to start for a bit. But it'd be really nice to have at least something better than they have now for a new employee to come and get started, so they're not dealing with moving all the time. So I appreciate that. Absolutely. I'm glad that we're getting some good candidates. I haven't heard any feedback on that, so it's excellent to know that. That's great. But otherwise, yeah, happy New Year to everybody, and I look forward to a busy year.
Financial meeting.
Oh yeah, financial meetings is next Monday here.
Next Monday here. Thank you. Councilor Smith.
Yes, thank you. Not much to report. Thing is for the library board, Fraser Valley Library, they're offering Canopy Thoughtful Entertainment. The program's on your desk here. The second page even tells you how to do it. The rest that are challenged, like myself, when it comes to hooking up for that. They have over 30,000 movies and documentaries. There's always something to watch, and it works with your library card. You just have to punch the number in, and now the live streaming, you get it with your library. It's a very good little program. There's always something going on at the library, so you would like people to take a look at that. Communities and Loans partnered with Fraser Valley Cash for Cars to work on cleaning up some of the old cars in the open area. The first car we got was actually Councillor Stewens, who was in her garage for 2 years sitting there. Anyway, we got running it out, and so she's glad, and then she's actually done a little bit of purging down there, shall we say, with the bin, so clean up. So anyway, thanks for her for the first car we got in that. We have a couple others on the way too to go out of town. Also, the annual polar bear swim. I think because it was warm this year, they had more people down there. But thanks to Brian McKinney of the Hope Visitor Center and the Hope Lions Club, and also Save On Foods and that for sponsoring it. It's a fun little event, and it's actually amazing how many seniors are still that tough enough to go in there. Wasn't me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Smith. Councilor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Just Happy New Year to everyone. And just one thing you may have seen in the emails going back and forth, I attended a webinar series put on by the Seniors Advocacy Group. And what they did was a 5-year study on what are the trends as far as affordability, transportation, assisted living, healthcare. Those are the main titles. What are the trends looking like over the past 5 years? And so it was a province-wide generalized view. And so what I've been doing is I've been looking into more the Hope area, like how many seniors are needing to defer their taxes either for affordability or other reasons. So what are the wait lists like for our living at the lodge, at the manors? Where are our seniors at? And just kind of getting a Hope view of where we're going, and maybe there's things that we can do to look at that and improve on that. So that's kind of what I've been up to, and hopefully we'll have a good report for you guys in the next meeting or the one after that. Take some time to get the information. That's it.
Councillor Stewart, did they have any numbers on seniors that are homeless?
Not specifically, no, but they did say in percentages that the percentage for the number of homeless seniors is increasing.
Okay.
So province-wide.
But nothing local that we can,
I haven't got a number yet.
okay.
I'm doing my own local numbers.
All right, thank you for that. Look forward to something coming back from you at a later date. Councillor Trona.
Yeah, I just want to, like I said, hope everybody had a good Christmas, wish everybody a Happy New Year. And I attended, I was invited out to the alumni game. We had a practice last Saturday, and as much as I can report, we're looking forward to our next practice next Saturday, because we need all the practice we can get. But lots of people attended. I think they said they'll have upwards of 22 guys on our side, so it's a great lot of support. And I think there's a few guys from out of town, but most of the people were from town, so it's good to see. And yeah, I'm looking forward to everything coming up in 2020. But I also received a phone call from a community member a couple hours before I showed up here tonight. And they said the property on the corner of 4th and I think it's Park Street, where they subdivided, they excavated the property there. They said there's lots of children playing in the area, the fence is down. Some fence in the area.
693.
Third Park?
Third and Park, yeah.
Oh, yes.
She said they're
Behind the
concerned,
Anglican
yeah,
church there?
there's no
Yeah.
fencing at all around that project right now.
They took it
So-
all away.
There's no fencing. When I seen Metro West.
It's tipped over, they took it away, do you think?
When I seen it in the dark, I think the
They
fencing
did?
is
The
the.
followers were actually here on Friday, taking a look at the trees to come out, so, but I think because of the weather, he had to fence up because of the weather, they couldn't follow. But he's right about that, we're just concerned. about
Yeah, just what she just said, there's, you see kids, they're sliding down
I'll
the
make a
road.
note of it.
Thanks for bringing that
There's a
forward.
big hole there.
But yeah, no, it's,
Yeah,
that's it for me.
thank you. There's no appropriates and bylaws tonight on the agenda. Correspondence, the accounts payable checklisting for November 2019 we received. Unless there's some questions, we can get back to staff and present it again next time. Otherwise, looking for a motion.
Makes a motion to receive.
Received.
I'll second.
Okay, all's in favor? Opposed? Carried. Accounts payable, the accounts payable checklisting for December 2019 we received. Same there. Second, all's in favor? Opposed? Carried. And that for information correspondence list dated January 13, 2020 we received. Moved. Second, thank you. All's in favor? Opposed? Carried. There's no other pertinent business. This time we'll call for questions from the public for items relevant to the agenda. Quiet. Hearing none. Our next meeting is Monday, January 27th, with a rather large agenda. Motion to adjourn. Move. Second. Thank you. We're out.